Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful and honestly often misunderstood anxiety disorder, emetophobia. It's way more common than you might think, and for people who live with it, it can be absolutely life-altering. So let's break down what it is, where it comes from, and, most importantly, how it can be managed.
Just think about this for a second. What if the very thing you were terrified of, getting sick, was a fear so intense that the anxiety itself actually made you feel physically ill? And that, right there, is the incredible, frustrating paradox at the very heart of emetophobia.
So what do we call this? Well, the clinical name is emetophobia. It's officially defined as an intense, overwhelming, and often irrational fear of vomiting. And I want to be clear, this is not just, a simple dislike of being sick. It's a specific phobia that can trigger some serious distress and cause people to change their entire lives, whether it's the fear of being sick themselves or even just seeing someone else go through it.
To really get this, we've got to look a little deeper, because this isn't just about disgust, not at all. It's about the deep, deep anxiety that fuels the whole thing. Think of it like an iceberg. The actual physical act of vomiting, that's just the tiny little tip you see above the water. For someone with emetophobia, the real issue, the thing that's lurking underneath, is a much deeper, more symbolic fear.
Okay, so where does a fear this specific and this powerful actually come from? Well, it turns out the roots can often be found in a few pretty common places.
A lot of the time, you can trace it back to a few key areas. It could be a really specific traumatic event from the past, maybe a bad bout of flu as a kid. Or it might come from being hyper-aware of every single little sensation in your body, or it could be linked to other anxiety disorders. But there's one cause in particular that tends to be a major, major driver.
Yeah, at its core, emetophobia is very often a profound fear of losing control. I mean, think about it. Vomiting is a totally involuntary reflex. And once it starts, there's no stopping it. And for someone who really needs to feel in control of their body and their environment, that complete loss of control can feel absolutely terrifying.
And when a fear gets this intense, it doesn't just stay in your head. Oh no, it starts to spill out and affect every single corner of your life, basically creating a prison built out of anxiety.
And you can see this show up in very real ways. Even the slightest hint of nausea can trigger a full-blown panic attack. So naturally, this leads to avoiding, well, anything, foods, places, even people, that the brain flags as a potential risk. And here's the kicker. The anxiety itself causes physical symptoms like sweating and shaking, which, you guessed it, can feel like you're about to get sick, creating this horrible, vicious cycle.
And this is how the world starts to shrink. It almost always begins with food. You start avoiding leftovers, then maybe certain restaurants, or even entire food groups that you think are risky. Pretty soon, your diet becomes incredibly restricted. And from there, it just expands. Travel becomes a nightmare. What if you get motion sickness on a plane? What if you eat something that doesn't agree with you? Suddenly, staying home just feels so much safer.
Next thing you know, your social life takes a hit. You might stop going to bars because people are drinking, or avoid a friend's house because their kid might have a stomach bug. Social events become these minefields of potential triggers. And this is where things can get really serious. The fear can grow to a point where it actually becomes a major health risk in itself. People might avoid going to the doctor, to hospitals, or put off necessary medical treatments, all because of that powerful association with sickness. The consequences for their overall health can be, well, they can be profound.
But here's the good news. A shrinking world does not have to be a permanent one. There is absolutely a path forward. So let's talk about the strategies that really work for reclaiming control from this fear.
The path to managing this is actually pretty well established. The gold standard is therapy, specifically something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This basically helps people challenge and reframe all those fearful thoughts. It's often paired with gradual exposure therapy, which is a slow, safe way of reintroducing triggers to take away their power. All of this can be supported by relaxation techniques to manage anxiety in the moment, and yeah, in some severe cases, medication can also be really helpful.
And this, right here, is the most important thing to remember. This is not a life sentence. The whole point of treatment is that with the right support and the right strategies, people absolutely can learn to manage this fear, break free from that cycle of avoidance, and get their lives back.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this thought. Emetophobia is just one example of a specific fear that can totally take over a person's world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of the fears that hold us back, that make our own world smaller, could maybe loosen their grip if we just took the time to understand them a little bit better.